Hey everybody, here is my first ever embroidery tutorial for this glow-in-the-dark jack-o'-lantern embroidery that I made. Let's start with a list of what you'll need. Here I have a jack-o'-lantern embroidery hoop that I got from Auburn Hoops, but you can also use just any embroidery hoop from your local craft store. You'll also need a pattern. I've just freehanded this one, just any kind of face shape for the jack-o'-lantern. And some burlap. I found some orange burlap at the craft store. A needle. A pair of fabric scissors. And air erasable pen. Some black embroidery thread. This is number 310 from DMC. And so starting out, cutting the burlap, here is a neat trick. If you want to avoid any frayed edges and have a more uniform edge like this that doesn't fray, find on your fabric where you want to cut it and take your needle, and we're just going to be lifting up a single thread out of the weave that we're going to be pulling out. So lift that up, grab on tight to it, and pull the thread completely out. So now we just made an open channel for us to cut, and that's also going to keep any edges from fraying. So take your fabric scissors and cut up through that line that we just made. Now that our burlap is ready, we're going to be putting it into our hoop. And I've also backed it with just a small piece of orange cotton. And now it's time for us to put the pattern onto our burlap. So take your jack-o'-lantern face and just draw it right onto the burlap with your air erasable pen. Once you have that done, that's when we're going to be starting to embroider. Here I'm using a back stitch, and I'm going to use this stitch to outline the entire face of the jack-o'-lantern. Be sure to check the back of your embroidery every once in a while, just to make sure that you don't have any knots or that your thread isn't getting tangled up with your other pieces of fabric. This is a very beginner pattern and stitch, so if you're pretty familiar with back stitch, feel free to fast forward through any of these parts. this point, my fabric was kind of getting in the way of the embroidery I was doing, so I just taped back some of the fabric so it would be out of the way of my thread and needle. Now that we have our back stitch outline of the face done, we're going to be moving on to the satin stitch that will be going over the top of the borders that we just made. They'll elevate the satin stitch to give it more of a lifted look. Be sure to have your satin stitch going in one direction for every section of the face, and also as close together as possible so that when we light the jack-o'-lantern from behind, that no light will escape through. Now that that's done, we can move on to my favorite part, which is putting lights behind our embroidery. I found these little LED lights from Costco that come with a battery pack, and they change to different colors and different speeds when you just click a button. There's probably a better way to do this than I did, but I just took some painter's tape and taped my lights directly to the back of the embroidery. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you'll try making your very own glow-in-the-dark pumpkin jack-o'-lantern embroidery. Thank you so much for watching.